When my wife told me she wanted an open marriage, she was prepared for me to yell, to cry, to beg. She wasn't prepared for my silence, or for the single, simple question I asked her in return, a question that made her stop smiling. My world is built on order. It's a deliberate choice, a fortress I constructed brick by brick against the chaos I witnessed as a child. My parents' divorce wasn't just a separation. It was a war zone of slammed doors, screaming matches, and shattered trust. My father, a man ruled by his temper, lost everything. My mother, a woman broken by his rage, lost herself. I swore I would be different. I would be the architect of a life so stable, so predictable, that no storm could ever shake its foundations. For 10 years, I thought I had succeeded. My wife, Elena, was the master blueprint for this life. When we met, she was a whirlwind of creative energy, a painter with a fire in her eyes. I offered her something she craved: security, a calm harbor. She, in turn, offered me a vibrancy that my structured world lacked. We were a perfect balance. We channeled our combined energies into building a life together, culminating in our pride and joy, the Amber Leaf Bistro, a cozy, successful restaurant that became the centerpiece of our community and our identity. We weren't just Adrian and Elena. We were the couple from the Amber Leaf, the embodiment of a perfect partnership. But over the last year, I've watched the light in her slowly dim, replaced by a restless energy I didn't recognize. It started after her old college friend Maya moved back to town. Maya was recently divorced, full of vibrant New Age philosophies about living your truth and breaking free from societal constructs. Elena began spending more and more time with her, coming home armed with a new vocabulary. Our comfortable routines became stagnation. Our shared goals became limiting constructs. Our quiet evenings were no longer peaceful. They were evidence that we had stopped evolving. The first real crack in my fortress appeared 3 weeks ago. It was the weekend of our 10th wedding anniversary, a date we've always celebrated with a trip to a secluded cabin in the mountains. It was our tradition, a cornerstone of our ordered life. The Thursday before we were set to leave, as I was confirming the reservation, Elena dropped the bomb.
I'm not going this year, Adrian.
I remember putting the phone down, my hand perfectly steady. Inside, a cold dread began to spread through my veins, but I kept my voice even. My father would have yelled. I would not. Why not? We always go.
I just... I need some space. To think. To explore my own individuality for a while. Maya says that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a partnership is to focus on your own personal growth.
The words hung in the air, foreign and sharp. They weren't her words. They were a script handed to her by someone else. She stayed home that weekend, and I stayed with her, the silence in our beautiful, orderly house more deafening than any argument. The anniversary passed without a single mention. The real earthquake, the one that brought the whole fortress crashing down, happened last night. She sat me down in the living room, the same room where we'd planned our restaurant's menu, where we'd celebrated its success. She was nervous, but her eyes held a strange, resolute fire I hadn't seen in years. She had rehearsed this.
Adrian, I love you. I love the life we've built. But I'm suffocating. I feel like I've lost the person I was supposed to become. I gave up my art, my passions, for this, and it's not enough anymore. I need to explore other connections, to experience different energies, to understand who I am outside of being your wife.
I just stared at her, my mind a blank slate of cold, calculated calm. I could feel my father's rage simmering deep beneath the surface, a monster rattling its cage, but I held it down. Discipline was my shield. What are you saying, Elena? She took a deep breath, and the final, fatal words tumbled out.
I want an open relationship. I need the freedom to be with other people. It's not about leaving you. It's about expanding our definition of love. It's the only way I can grow. And I need you to agree to this. Or I don't think I can stay.
There it was. An ultimatum disguised as a philosophical awakening. My wife was asking for my permission to cheat, framing it as an act of self-discovery. She was holding a grenade, threatening to pull the pin and destroy our restaurant, our reputation, our entire world, unless I agreed to watch her walk into the arms of another. Every instinct, every lesson learned from my father's downfall screamed at me. A fortress wall isn't meant to have a gate for the enemy. The moment you even consider it, the fortress has already fallen. I know what I have to do to protect what's left, but the scale of the demolition required is staggering. I looked at the woman I had loved for a decade, and for the first time, I saw a stranger. Is there someone else already, Elena? She looked away, and in her guilty silence, I had my answer. The betrayal wasn't a future possibility. It had already begun. What do I do now? How do you even begin to dismantle a life? And that's the story so far. It's a tough situation, and I'm sure you all have opinions. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the updates on this story. Give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you think my first step should be. I'll be reading everything. Now, let's get into the first update. Thank you for the flood of support and advice on my original post. Reading through your comments, I found a common thread: clarity. Before I make any moves, I need to understand the full scope of the situation. My calm exterior is a mask. Inside, I'm navigating the rubble of my life, and I need a map. I decided to start with the question that has been haunting me. Who is he? For the past week, I've lived a double life. By day, I was the co-owner of the Amber Leaf Bistro, smiling at customers, managing staff, and pretending my world wasn't imploding. By night, I became a detective in my own home. I started with our shared phone records. It felt like a violation of the man I used to be, but that man was married to a woman I thought I knew. I'm married to a stranger now, and the rules of engagement have changed. I braced myself to find a man's name, a number contacted at odd hours, a secret digital life. I scrolled through months of data, my heart pounding with a cold, rhythmic dread. There were thousands of calls and texts. But the vast majority, the overwhelming flood of communication, wasn't with a man. It was with Maya. At first, I dismissed it. Of course, they talk a lot, they're close friends. But the pattern was undeniable. Late-night calls that lasted for hours, hundreds of texts a day. The frequency spiked right before Elena dropped her bombshell about the anniversary, and it became a constant torrent afterward. It wasn't just friendly chatter, it was a lifeline. Driven by a suspicion so dark I was almost afraid to confirm it, I did something I never thought I'd do. One evening, while Elena was in the shower, I looked at her phone. Her password, once our anniversary date, was now changed. But my fingerprint still worked. A small, painful oversight on her part. I didn't read everything. I didn't need to. I opened her chat with Maya and saw all I needed to see. It wasn't the explicit confession of a physical affair that struck me. It was the language, the intense, coded intimacy. He'll never understand the connection we have. You see the real me, the artist I buried. Soon we can stop pretending. And a message from Elena, sent the night she asked for an open marriage. I did it, the first step to our new life. The breath left my body in a silent rush. The betrayal wasn't what I thought. It wasn't simpler, it was infinitely more complex. She wasn't leaving me for another man. She was leaving our life for a fantasy, an idea of herself. And Maya was the architect of that fantasy. The request for an open relationship wasn't a desire for casual flings. It was a Trojan horse. A way to introduce a new reality into our lives. To normalize the idea of external intimacy until Maya's presence was no longer a secret, but an accepted part of her personal growth. This changes everything. The destruction of our marriage is one thing, but our business, the Amber Leaf, is built on our story, on the image of a loving, traditional couple. A scandal is a fire that could burn it to the ground. And this truth is gasoline. My methodical, logical mind is spinning. The enemy isn't a man I can confront. It's an idea that has poisoned my wife's mind, and a best friend who has been systematically dismantling my life from the inside. I feel like I'm playing a chess game where my opponent revealed they've been playing by entirely different rules all along. The question is no longer just how to end a marriage. It's how to survive the explosion. The situation has become so much more tangled than I ever imagined. Knowing the truth feels both clarifying and terrifying. What would you do now that you know the affair isn't what it seemed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your comments on the last update were a lifeline. Many of you pointed out that a betrayal this deep is rarely confined to just emotions. You told me to follow the money. At first, I resisted. Elena and I built our business on trust. Our finances were completely intertwined. The idea that she would betray me financially seemed impossible, a step too far even for the stranger she had become. But the cold logic of your advice was undeniable. A new life costs money. I booked a consultation with a lawyer, a woman named Matilda Albright, recommended by a trusted colleague. She was in her late 50s, with sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through my carefully constructed composure. I laid out the story, from the open relationship demand to the truth about Maya. She listened without judgment, her expression unchanging. When I finished, she looked at me over her glasses.
Mr. Evans, your wife hasn't just been planning to leave your marriage. She's been planning to leave your life. An emotional affair of this magnitude, combined with a demand that could detonate your shared business. It's a scorched earth strategy. She wants to burn the past to build her future. I strongly advise you to hire a forensic accountant. Today.
The term scorched earth hit me like a physical blow. It was the perfect description. That afternoon, I hired the accountant she recommended. I gave him access to all our accounts, both personal and business. Then, I waited. For 3 days, I went to work, smiled at patrons, and acted as if my world was solid, all while knowing a wrecking ball was swinging at its foundations. The accountant's call came on a Friday afternoon. I stepped out of the bistro into the alley behind the kitchen, the scent of garlic and rosemary thick in the air.
Adrian, I finished my preliminary review. You need to sit down.
I leaned against the cool brick wall. He didn't need to tell me twice. For the next 20 minutes, he detailed a systematic financial deception that was as cold as it was calculated. For the last 6 months, Elena had been siphoning money from the restaurant's profits. Small amounts at first, disguised as payments to fictitious vendors, artistic tableware supplies, gourmet linen services. Over time, the amounts grew. The money was being funneled into a private bank account, an account opened in her name only. From there, the spending painted a clear and devastating picture. There were thousands of dollars in high-end art supplies, a down payment on a lease for a small studio apartment in the Arts District, a lease set to begin next month. And the most painful discovery of all, 2 plane tickets to Italy, one way, for a flight departing in 6 weeks. 2 tickets, in the names of Elena Evans and Maya Sinclair. The phone felt heavy in my hand. This was beyond an affair, beyond a midlife crisis. This was a meticulously planned escape. She wasn't asking for an open relationship to grow. She was buying time. She was building a lifeboat while methodically drilling holes in the ship we built together. She wanted to keep me placid and cooperative, to maintain the restaurant's income stream to fund her departure, right up until the day she vanished, leaving me with the wreckage. My father's rage, that beast I'd kept chained my whole life, roared in my mind. But I didn't let it out. Instead, a terrifying calm washed over me. The kind of calm that comes when all hope is lost, and all that's left is strategy. The game was no longer chess. It was demolition, and I was the one holding the detonator. I now have the proof of her emotional deception and her financial betrayal. I have the power to expose her, to fight her in court, to destroy her reputation as completely as she planned to destroy my life. But I also have the power to do something else. To conduct a surgical extraction. A clean cut, so precise she won't even know what's happening until it's over. My fortress is gone. Now I will build my escape route, and she will never see it coming. The evidence is undeniable and the betrayal is deeper than I could have fathomed. I have all the leverage now. The question is how to use it. I have the proof of the emotional affair and the financial betrayal. How should I handle the confrontation? Let me know your ideas in the comments. Armed with the accountant's report and the copies of her text messages, I knew the time for silent investigation was over. It was time for the confrontation. Your comments overwhelmingly supported a direct but controlled approach. No yelling, no accusations. Just the cold, hard facts. I decided the setting had to be the Amber Leaf Bistro. The monument to our shared dream would become the stage for its conclusion. I asked her to meet me there on a Sunday night, after we'd closed. I told her we needed to discuss a new menu proposal. She arrived looking relaxed, even cheerful, completely unaware that she was walking into the final scene of her old life. The restaurant was quiet, with only the hum of the refrigerators breaking the silence. I had her sit at our favorite table, the one in the corner where we'd signed the original lease. I didn't waste time with small talk. I sat opposite her and slid a single piece of paper across the table. It was the bank statement from her secret account. Her smile vanished. The color drained from her face.
What is this?
That's a good question, Elena. I was hoping you could tell me. Perhaps artistic tableware supplies can explain? She stared at me, her eyes wide with panic. She started to stammer, to formulate a lie, but I didn't give her the chance.
Adrian, it's not what you think. I was going to tell you. I needed something that was just mine.
Like a studio apartment in the arts district? Her jaw snapped shut. She looked trapped. I slid a second set of papers across the table. Printed copies of her texts with Maya. The messages about their new life. She flinched as if I'd slapped her.
You went through my phone? How could you?
How could I? Elena, you stood in our living room and asked for my permission to sleep with other people, all while planning to flee the country with my money and your best friend. The question isn't, how could I? It's, how could you? For the first time, she broke. The cool, enlightened philosopher was gone, replaced by a cornered, desperate woman. Tears streamed down her face.
You don't understand. I was drowning. I haven't painted in years. This life, this perfect, orderly life, it was a cage. Maya was the only one who understood. She saw the real me.
The real you? The real you is a thief and a liar. You didn't want to grow, Elena. You wanted to escape. You wanted to take everything we built and use it to fund your fantasy, and you were going to leave me to deal with the fallout. You didn't have the courage to ask for a divorce, so you tried to manipulate me into destroying our marriage for you. She just sobbed, her whole body shaking. The beast of my father's rage was silent now. There was no satisfaction in this, only a profound, hollow sadness. I let her cry for a moment before pushing the final document across the table. It was a divorce settlement. It's all there. You keep the money you took. You keep the studio apartment. You can have your new life. In return, you sign over your half of the restaurant and the house to me, free and clear. There will be no public court battle, no mention of Maya or the stolen funds. We walk away, and we never speak again. You can tell our friends whatever you want. Tell them I was controlling. Tell them I wouldn't let you evolve. I don't care. She looked up at me, her face a mess of tears and disbelief.
Why? Why would you do this? You could ruin me.
I looked around the empty restaurant, at the dream we had built, and she had shattered. Because I'm not you, Elena, and I'm not my father. My victory isn't in destroying you. It's in surviving you. Sign the papers and you are free to go and find yourself. Don't sign them, and I will use every piece of evidence I have to ensure you walk away with nothing but public shame. The choice is yours. She picked up the pen, her hand trembling. It was the quickest, quietest execution in history. The dismantling of a decade-long partnership, done in under 10 minutes at a corner table of a closed restaurant. She signed every page. When she was done, she pushed the papers back to me, stood up, and walked out of my life without another word. I sat there for a long time, alone in the silence. The signed papers a testament not to a victory, but to a successful amputation. The poison was out. Now, the healing could begin. It's done. The papers are signed, and she is gone. It was the hardest yet cleanest thing I have ever done, but the fallout is just beginning. I have to face our friends, our families, and our staff alone. Do you think I did the right thing by offering her a clean break? Let me know in the comments. It's been 6 months since that night at the bistro. The first few weeks were a blur of logistics and quiet explanations. I told our staff, friends, and family the story we had implicitly agreed upon, that we had grown apart and Elena needed to pursue her art, a dream she had set aside for too long. It was the truth, just not the whole truth. It was a clean narrative that allowed everyone to move on without choosing sides, and it allowed me to begin rebuilding in peace. I sold my half of the Amber Leaf Bistro. My partner, our head chef, had always wanted to be an owner, and he was the only one I trusted to carry on its legacy. Staying there felt like living in a museum of a life that was no longer mine. With the proceeds from the sale and the house, I left the city. I needed a new canvas, a place with no memories. I moved 3 states away to a smaller city by the coast. I used the money to start a small consulting firm, helping aspiring restaurateurs avoid the pitfalls of the industry. I build blueprints for other people's dreams now. It's quiet work, it's solitary, and it's entirely mine. I haven't spoken to Elena, but news travels. I heard through a mutual friend that she and Maya made it to Italy. Their new life, however, did not survive contact with reality. The fantasy they'd built in whispered conversations couldn't withstand the mundane pressures of daily life, of budgets and shared space. They lasted 2 months before imploding. Maya, I'm told, is now in another country, on another spiritual journey. And Elena? She's back in the States, living in that studio apartment she rented with my money. She's painting. For the first time in over a decade, she is living the life of the artist she claimed she wanted to be. I don't know if she's happy, but she is, finally, living her truth. I find that I don't hate her. I don't feel much of anything for her anymore, except a distant, detached pity for a woman who had to burn down a forest just to see the sky. The biggest change, however, has been in me. In dismantling the fortress of my marriage, I was forced to step outside its walls for the first time. I realized my obsession with order and control wasn't just a shield, it was also a cage. It kept the chaos out, but it also kept life at a distance. I'm in therapy now, not because I'm broken, but because I want to understand the architecture of my own mind. I'm learning to live with uncertainty, to accept that not everything can be planned or controlled. I'm finally dealing with the legacy of my father, not by running from his fire, but by learning to understand my own. I am alone, but I am not lonely. My new life is quieter, smaller, but it's more authentic than the grand, perfect life I tried so desperately to construct. Last week, I was sketching out a floor plan for a client's new cafe, and I realized I was humming. I hadn't hummed in years. Both Elena and I got what we subconsciously wanted. She got her blank canvas. And I, the architect of order, finally got a blueprint for a life built not on fear, but on freedom. It's a terrifying, exhilarating, and unpredictable new world. And for the first time, I'm ready to see what happens next. Thank you all for following this journey with me. Your support and advice were invaluable when I felt like I was navigating in the dark. This chapter is closed, and a new one is beginning. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a final thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.